Hello and welcome to the Do-It-Yourselfer's Guide on how to work with hot glue. In this video we're going to be talking about what is hot glue, what are some of the useful properties we can take advantage of when it comes to hot glue, how do you actually work with it, and how do you be safe with it. I hope you're ready. Let's get going. So when you ask yourself the question, what is hot glue? The first thing that comes to mind is, well, it's an adhesive. It's an adhesive that gets hot and melts, and you can apply it to things. When we talk about hot glue in a more formal setting, we think of it as a thermoplastic. Thermoplastic is essentially a polymer, basically a plastic, that when it gets hot, it can melt and go back into its original shape by getting cool again. This is as opposed to another type of plastic called a thermosetter, which would, after getting set, actually be destroyed upon being heated. So this is a very useful property, and it allows hot glue to be very versatile, and we can work with it with a simple hot glue gun. When we think of a regularly store-bought hot glue gun, hot glue stick, then it likely has a mixture of primarily a chemical called ethylene vinyl acetate and a few other things. Now, there are other mixtures of hot glue, but this is the main one that you're going to find, and the main one that we're going to be talking about today. This stuff is the cheapest form of hot glue, and it's also the most economical. And when we think about economics, we also talk about how good is it compared to another source. So this is the cheapest, this is the best for the money that they have. So we're going to go into some other standard hot glue stuff. Hot glue comes in mainly two different diameters and two different lengths. You're going to mainly see a 5/16 inch diameter and a 7/16 inch diameter. These are going to be used with different types of glue guns, so you want to watch out when you're purchasing it and making sure that you are getting the right glue stick for your glue gun. And secondly, the length, we see that hot glue typically comes in 4-inch sticks and 12-inch sticks. Right here I have a 12-inch glue stick, and size for this, because you can use it for, this has, well, let's think about it. It has 3 times as much hot glue in one use, and you don't have to reload it. This right here is the 4-inch. This is the same type of hot glue. However, the 4-inch has less hot glue in it. The next thing that we want to talk about when we're talking about hot glue is what are the properties of hot glue and how can we take advantage of them. The first thing we want to talk about, it's a common question, what is the difference between high and low temperature hot glue? Basically, we have a few different things we want to talk about surrounding this, and we're going to introduce a term called viscosity. When hot glue is heated up, this is the same thing with most thermoplastics. The viscosity of the substance gets lower. Viscosity compared to the difference between water and syrup. So syrup is a very high viscosity material. It's something that resists a lot of flow. It's literally the measure of how much force does it take to shear a liquid. So when you talk about a low viscosity hot glue, you're seeing that it's more comparable to water. You're getting that the hot glue is going to be able to get into the pores and cracks of the material and thus glue and bond to more than just the surface of it. It's actually going to go and attach, and it's really, hot glue is just a physical bond. I mean, there's only with certain niche blends of hot glue are you going to actually be able to chemically bond to a substance. So because this glue is just wrapping around, you want to get it the most surface area you can to wrap around. And so that viscosity allows us to do that. So to answer the question, what is the difference between high and low? High temperature glue, basically it's designed so that it doesn't decompose and basically burn at a high temperature, and low temperature is designed for a lower temperature. Higher temperature is typically a better bond, typically more strong. Lower temperatures, typically worse. The difference, when you use a high temperature hot glue, you're going to be able to bond to things like plastic or metal. When you use a low temperature hot glue, you're going to be able to bond to things like balloons or ribbons or whatever. So next thing we want to talk about is open time. Open time is basically two fancy words that mean how long does this material take to dry. So when we apply it to a substance, it takes a certain amount of time, and the manufacturer sets this time, and it kind of defines how much this force is. But the glue takes a certain amount of time to lower to a certain temperature such that the material behaves in a way that gives a nice bond strength. So, however, you might want to set it a little bit longer just to be careful. It definitely behaves stronger at the lowest possible temperature. But this is a good guideline, at least 60 seconds on that glue. So now that we've talked a little bit about hot glue guns are actually something of their own. We are bombarded with a few different properties that we might not even understand when you look at a hot glue gun. But these all make differences in the performance of our products. So, when you think about a hot glue gun, you're going to see probably 4 different variabilities that you can change, and maybe some more that the really high-tech stuff has. The first is wattage. So when you look at a hot glue gun, the wattage determines how much energy and how much heat is generated by the heating coils inside of the hot glue gun. We know that more heat means more temperature, and basically if you heat that glue up, it's going to become more viscous, it's going to flow more easily, and you're going to have more flow through the nozzle of that glue gun when you press the trigger. So that's a very important one. And so your high wattage glue guns are going to be generally more expensive than the low wattage, and that's something to watch out for. The second property of a hot glue gun that we want to talk about is size. There are 2 main sizes that you're going to see commercially available for you. It's going to be small and regular. The regular glue guns are capable of handling the probably 7/16 inch diameter glue stick most of the time. The small ones are going to be able to handle 5/16 inch. I guess you can kind of think of the smaller as being more maneuverable, but that's up to preference. So the third thing we want to talk about is that some glue guns come corded and some come battery run. The battery run glue sticks you're going to need to recharge them. They're going to be higher cost, and they're going to be probably lower wattage. So when you buy a corded glue gun, you're expecting to save money. The fourth thing we want to talk about, and I think this is very important, is you would probably like to buy a glue gun with settings. You want to buy a glue gun with a low temperature setting and a high temperature setting. If you are using a glue stick which is able to go to both temperatures, then you can easily switch high to low, and then you can, with the same glue and the same glue gun, glue rubber or whatever and not mess with the material. So this is important that you probably want to get, and it doesn't really add to the cost. This glue gun, the glue gun that I have here is a fairly low wattage. It's a 40 watt glue gun, and it has a high and low temperature setting. So this is very important for your usability here, and it's going to save you a lot of time. You're not going to have to buy a second glue gun, so I would recommend getting something like this. Alright, so the next section that we want to talk about, how do you actually work with a glue gun? What are some tips to actually getting it and using it the best way? The first thing we want to mention is that you want to let that glue gun sit and heat up before you use it. Plug it in, wait a couple minutes, wait 10 minutes, and make sure that glue gun is at its maximum temperature, or you're not going to get that nice effect of the low viscosity, high temperature glue. You're going to see that it's operating at a lower temperature, and it's not going to take the full material properties for what they are. The second thing I want to mention is that your projects are time sensitive. When you put that adhesive down, unlike something like a wood glue or something like that, you are working with time here. When you adhere that glue to the surface, it's going to dry in, like I said, about 60 seconds. So within that time, you need to have your stuff. So set your stuff out, make sure that it's all close and ready to go. The third thing, I mentioned it before, but the bond is going to be mechanical. So when you're adhering it to something like a PVC pipe or metal or a very smooth wood, then you really should probably rough up the edge of that and use a sandpaper. This is going to help your bond strength significantly, roughing that surface up, getting into those grains of the material. Very helpful. I also have a tip for bonding the metal. Because metal it conducts so much heat, it allows heat to just go right through it. When you put the glue on it, it's going to reduce that set time significantly. It's going to make it, I've had glue, I put it on metal, and I go immediately to put wood on it, and it just has no strength left. It's completely and totally bonded to the metal. So I recommend putting a piece of duct tape or something like that on the metal and adhering right to that duct tape. The duct tape might even be a stronger bond than the glue on that metal, so definitely a good tip there. So for our last section of the video, we want to talk about safety. We always want to end up safe. Hot glue is really a rather safe substance. When you're using the commercial available product, you're not getting to any crazy temperatures. So as long as you're using it within its operating ranges and how it's supposed to be used, you're going to be okay. So the first thing I want to mention is that even though it's not really incredibly dangerous, that hot glue is very hot. Like I said, 380 degrees is a high temperature glue gun. So if you let a 380 degree liquid onto your skin, you're not going to be happy. I recommend that you wear gloves, and I mean, it happens, you get glue on yourself. So a great precaution is to have a bowl of water near where you're working and be able to, if you get glue spilled all over your hand, to dip that into water will really lower that temperature much quicker on that glue and solidify it. It could stay burnt, it could stay hot for a long time on your skin. It does not feel good. The next thing I want to mention is that really don't leave your glue gun unattended. This stuff gets very hot. I once, in a college research setting, I left the glue gun on all night in the lab. When we came in the next day, the glue gun was completely disintegrated. I saw the heating element sitting in a pool of plastic, and it was just completely destroyed. If it were on paper or something like that, there's a darn good chance that paper would have caught fire, and there would have been a big problem there. Do not leave your glue gun unattended. When you leave for any reason over maybe 5 minutes, absolutely 100% make sure that glue gun is unplugged. You also want to leave the glue gun supported properly. A lot of glue guns have a support like mine, and this is pretty good. Maybe a little bit more would be a safer choice, but at least use your stand here, and don't leave it on its side because this is where it gets hot. You also want to be careful with the nozzle of the hot glue gun. That gets hot. It's nearly as hot as the glue itself, so be careful with that. And also, hot glue is actually a toxic substance if it is burned. Like I said, the low temperature glue guns are meant for low temperatures, and if they go higher, and same with the high temperature, if you go way high on the high temperature, you're going to burn that stuff. And hot glue doesn't release fumes regularly, but it will when it gets to high temperature. It's going to degrade that disgusting chemical, the ethylene vinyl acetate, and it's going to get into the air, and it's not good. So make sure that you're not going to use it at any higher temperature than it's meant to. And the last thing, a hot glue disclaimer is that it's really not meant for very high stress joints. If you were to say use it as like a joint on a table or a chair, it's not a good thing. I've seen the guy did a study and he did a bunch of wood joints and said that hot glue could hold 100 pounds, but be careful about this. Definitely, if you're using it for anything that could be possibly dangerous, absolutely find a better adhesive or use a mechanical joint. So with that, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you learned a little bit about what hot glue actually is and how to use it properly. This has been a blast making this, and I'm enjoying this learning about new substances. And it's going to be all this material is going to be used in my later projects that I'm going to be making do-it-yourself tripods. So thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye.